All right, today I want to talk to you about two things, both related to public speaking skills and presentation skills, and both incredibly important. One is failure, the other one is silence. Silence on stage in a high exposure situation. So let's talk about failure first. In much of Central and Eastern Europe, failure used to be treated by education systems as something to be avoided at all costs, something deeply, painfully stigmatized. Do whatever you can to avoid massive, major mistakes, because these are thoroughly, unambiguously negative experiences. Whereas in the Anglo-Saxon world, failure is believed to be one of the most important transformative lessons with the kind of motivational power that you can hardly draw from anything else. Hence, failure is often cherished as something that has the power to change your entire life. The bigger the failure, the stronger its power to transform you from inside. I could give you countless examples from questions I asked prominent speakers at dozens and dozens of international conferences who went through such transformative experiences. Some of them wrote books about it. About some of them, films and documentaries had been made. Now, you remember Steve Jobs, his famous Stanford speech back in July 2005 when he spoke in front of like 5,000 Stanford University students. In his 3 stories, he talked about the bitter pill that the patient didn't realize he needed. So you can only look at things from hindsight. You can only connect the dots, looking backwards, to use his metaphor. That's a very important lesson. And now that we are talking about Steve Jobs, by the way, years ago, like 8-9 years ago, I was commissioned to do a 3-hour public speaking workshop for TEDx speakers focused exclusively on this 15-minute speech. So we spent full 3 hours talking about this single 15-minute speech. That should give you an idea that there's really enough to talk about there. The story of this speech is pretty much the story of Steve Jobs himself. Now the next topic is silence, silence on stage. And again, I will use the example of Steve Jobs. Watch it.
What's the most important thing that you personally learned at Apple that you're doing it next?
Good question. I'm not sure I learned this when I was at Apple, but I learned it based on the data when I was at Apple.
There are a number of benchmarks, universal benchmarks, that you would likely believe to be true and accurate for all kinds of public speaking situations. Controlling silence is one of them. And of course, don't get me wrong, you can easily overdo it. I'm not asking or recommending that you do it like an actor would. Far from it. Stay away from this kind of silence as much as you can. How do I explain silence on stage? Silence on stage is a profound sense of control. It's showing respect to your audience because you're actually taking the time there and then to think deeply about whatever it is they're asking you to address. So if you're taking the time, it's actually a compliment for the person asking you the question, because you, in the position of someone like Steve Jobs, you would have heard just about every question dozens of times. So if someone can surprise him with a question or make him think deeper, it's actually a compliment. And the fact that he can stand there for like 10-15 seconds thinking deeply about what he wants to say in response to this question is, again, the best compliment you could hope for. But, and that's a massive but, like with so much else on stage, you can easily overdo it. If you take the time to answer the question, you'd better have something impactful to say. Do not come up with heartwarming fluff and platitudes after that, because it's not worth the pause, the silence. But if you have something really profound to say, then silence right before it will only make it a lot more powerful. Few people can do it. To explain it, to explain how important it is, let me relate to something else, something which is even trickier to understand. The concept of being humble, humility. You've heard all about it, authenticity, humility. In my experience of working with dozens and dozens of CEOs and management boards of large international companies, I can tell you there are two kinds of humble. One is, I can see a drone hovering above my head, and a really good drone operator. He was just squeezing through the branches here. So there are two kinds of humble. Number one, by far the most popular, the kind of humble that makes other people believe that you're genuinely modest, humble, even though you've achieved a lot. But in fact, you're far from it. And there would be signs showing that you're really not. And then you may come across a handful of people in your life who have achieved truly a lot, remarkable achievements, and yet they are genuinely, profoundly humble. And you can feel it, you can sense it with every word, every gesture. That's it for today.